Theater is one of the oldest and most beloved forms of entertainment. There is an air of nostalgia to it.
In olden days, a glimpse of stocking was looked on as something shocking, but now God knows anything goes.
It's that space, that magic when you walk in from the outside and you walk inside, and it could be any time frame.
You come to the theater to experience life. It is cut into digestible segments, and you come in and you get to see all the splendor, all the tragedy, all the love and hate and everything.
It's like an escape.
It's just a different feel to anything else you've done.
No other art form really involves the active participation of the viewer and the artist simultaneously.
However, there is a dark side to the art, with theater's origins tracing back thousands of years. With a history like that, there comes a lot of ritual, tradition, and especially with theater, superstition. Whether due simply to tradition or paranormal fear, superstition has deeply ingrained roots in theater's history.
There are many superstitions that go with theater throughout the centuries, of which many of them are still observed. It depends really on the individual, but yes, there's certainly a play that we call the Scottish play that you're not allowed to say the title of because it will bring bad luck.
And that history is amazing because the origin of it is that they believe that William Shakespeare took a witch's spell book and wrote in his play actual spells from the spell book. There are people who believe that he actually had incantations and spells in his play that were being performed live.
Macbeth.
I come, Grey Malkin, Pentacles.
Anon. Fair is foul and foul is fair. Hover through the fog and filthy air.
Why tempt fate? There's a reason that somebody set those up.
Another one from sort of the 18th century is that you shouldn't whistle inside of a theater.
Old stagers sometimes make mistakes as well. Fancy Joyce entering the dressing room whistling. Joyce must retrace her steps, close the door, turn round 3 times and then re-enter and swear.
And that's passed down from the time when sailors, when they were sort of trying to make some money and they were in dock, would actually run the fly floors because they were obviously rope experts. So whistling would be a signal that they should bring something in or take something out. And so if you whistle, it's said that something could very quickly fall on your head.
I once was yelled at by a director for whistling. I whistle, I guess. I love to whistle. And she yelled at me. She said, "You never will whistle in a theater."
I think as far as superstitions go, if someone believes it, it's going to happen. So you just don't want to put it out there to allow it to happen. You want control of an uncontrollable situation.
Watching potentially something go wrong is partly, I think, why people go.
Live theater, there's so many things that can go wrong, right? And in live theater, you rehearse and you rehearse and you rehearse to get it, just right. And so sometimes you feel like any little thing that you do differently will change your performance. So I think that's sort of why actors tend to be superstitious.
I can tell you in one word: tradition!
Tradition! Tradition! Tradition! Tradition! Tradition! Tradition!
There are traditions. The traditions have evolved. They're not the same. You don't have to do the same thing now that you did 200 years ago. But they're still traditions. They're still there.
One of the most prominent and interesting traditions throughout the history of theater is known as a ghost light.
A ghost light, of course, has lots of urban myth around it, and one of theatrical traditions and superstitions, one of them, of course, is it's a light that you leave on so that the ghosts can find their way around at night. On one level, of course, it's purely practically a safety issue, so that if you do walk into a dark space with the lights out, that you can see the edge of the stage and not fall off.
It could be a lot of things, I guess. A sign of respect for someone that worked in the theater. You know, the essence of keeping a light on for the person.
Superstitiously, I believe a ghost light is supposed to be this, to emit a light that will keep evil spirits away. There's something about the human condition and pitch blackness that makes us think that, in pitch black, it's obviously, that's when threats come out.
And though you turn from me to glance behind, the phantom of the opera is there inside your mind.
Ghosts themselves are another motif in the long-running history of theater. Many theaters question whether the spirits of the past still haunt their halls to this day.
There are people that are open to it. There are people that believe, yes, definitely there are spirits, and there are people that are on the other end of the spectrum that said, no, they're not, you're crazy. There's something. There's something.
So right now I'm sitting in the historical Longstreet Theatre, which of course has been many things throughout the centuries.
Longstreet Theatre was built in 1850. It was designed to be kind of a throwback to classical architecture. War broke out. The Confederacy took it over as a hospital, and then the university transformed it into several different things.
Longstreet has been a school, a gymnasium, it's been part of the sort of congressional meeting center, it's been a morgue for the Civil War, it's had, as a building, it's had many different owners and I think many different kind of experiences, which is sort of why there is this unusual energy within inside of it.
There is a spirit in the building itself, and that's, it's just a spirit of all the shows that have come before and all the weight of those memories. And certainly the spirit of the history and being able to touch these bricks that were there in the Civil War and saw some pretty terrible things.
I'm not sure that there is a spiritual being in this particular space, but I believe there's one in the building. And I personally think it's associated to when it was a morgue for the Civil War. There's something about technology in this space. If you bring in sophisticated equipment, sound equipment, lighting equipment, it tends to not want to work here, where it can have been working perfectly well elsewhere. There is something that's sort of making you think about using more traditional methods. I can't really relate that to a ghost or a haunting or a spirit, but I do think that there is a sense that this particular space wants things to be as they used to be. Let's say that.
It was built in 1975, opened in 1976. There were 2 people that have died here so far. One while building it, and the other one while doing light work. You can actually see in the ceiling where they patched it up. The tech guy that was here, the second death, I know that when he fell from right up there onto the chairs. And it's still the same ceiling that we've had the entire time since it was built. And the seats he fell on are actually still in the building. They're on the 2nd floor backstage. I was up top changing some of the lights by myself at about probably 11 p.m. And the door that I'd come through opened and closed by itself, and I heard someone going down the stairs. Of course, no one was here. The way that I think about, having 2 people have died here and only one ghost existing, and it's weird that I think that there's only one to begin with, but I think that there's like a sense of consistency behind it, just like a person that you would know, how they would act. It gives off the vibe of a person that's involved in theater.
Savannah Theater is actually the oldest continually used theater in the United States. Originally opened in 1818, it has burned a couple times. Lots of interesting things happen in there. Theaters tend to be haunted, and I think the reason for that is there's a lot of energy in a theater, whether it's from electricity or the audience or the actors, but there are things that happen in Savannah Theater, and I don't know what it is exactly. I can't specifically, scientifically tell you, yes, there are ghosts, but there's something in there.
It has ghosts that are privy to it, and they're just Savannah Theater ghosts.
The story is that there was a young woman who was getting ready for her first ever play, and her entrance was to come up from underneath the stage. Well, during one of their last rehearsals, or her last rehearsal, someone kicked a footlight. Well, back then it was kerosene or oil lights. And they kicked it, and the oil spread out on the stage, and the stage caught fire, and she suffocated down underneath. And her name is Elizabeth.
Never getting her limelight in life, she came time after time on opening nights to haunt the place. So one late night, I was here painting the set, and as I was on stage, I began to feel this terrible sensation that I was being watched, this dread inside of me that there was someone out in the audience. Now, because the lights were all pointed at me, I couldn't see into the darkness of the audience, but I could hear the faint ticking of possibly a stopwatch or whatever it was, tick, 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 and it led me off of the stage, down the stairs, and to this very chair. As I approached the chair, I realized that its seat was down, as if somebody were sitting here. These are spring-loaded. I couldn't help but feel that there was something there, and the ticking sound was right, tick, 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 emanating from the chair. When I moved my hand close to it, all I felt was cold air, freezing cold air. And I can tell you, in this theater in the middle of July, that is a strange sensation.
Although theater has a widely acknowledged history of what could be described as paranormal activity, the use of a traditional ghost light is becoming far less common.
Saves electricity not to have a ghost light. Yeah, we've got to save the planet, because without a planet, who needs theater?
It's probably less used these days simply because of emergency lighting, of the sense that actually there are ways of powering a space relatively cheaply that you can keep, lights on 24 hours a day. But I think we keep ours in all of our performance spaces simply because it is a tradition.
The traditions will stay, but they'll evolve.
Modernity is the death of superstition. Whenever technology advances, wonder dies. And that is just a simple fact. We are fascinated by what we don't know, but we're also terrified of it. When there are things we don't know, we fill in the blanks with superstition and fear. The more we learn and the more we know, the less we turn to our imagination, which is a shame.
While the tradition of the ghost light may be changing, it is evolving into a new sort of symbol.
Be a light, be a light, be a light, be a light. Don't be scared. The fear makes it hard to think. We know you are ironclad, but density will make you.
There's also recently sort of metaphorical purpose for a ghost light being a light that is sort of a shining beacon for everyone outside of the theater to know that this is a safe space. Theaters around our country and around the world are safe spaces where all stories can be told, all voices are welcome to be heard.
The Ghostlight Project, we're very proud to be part of that initiative. It's a nationwide initiative that got together the evening before the inauguration, and at 5 o'clock everybody turned on their ghost light. The idea behind that is that it's a symbol to represent the fact that theater is a safe place and inclusive of everybody, no matter of, anything really. I mean, whether that's privileged, underprivileged, race, creed, religion, sexuality, it really will embrace and include everybody. And the stories that we choose to tell will do that too. I think that theater is a place where conflict happens, where different ideas are presented and discussed, and I think it's also a place that provokes change. So to me, the Ghostlight Project was the perfect example of what I think that we should be doing, moving theater into the 21st century, representing the world and the universe in which we live in. And we're very proud to have our Ghostlight shining, and it will shine, for as long as it needs to shine.
Our light shines for everybody. It's our Statue of Liberty moment.
No, you won't be alone. No, you don't have to figure it out.
While the traditional use of a ghost light may be fading, the newfound symbolism of the ghost light is evolving and shining bright.